Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. This Lao Tzu quote is one of my favorites, and in this week's episode, we take a look at what does that actually mean? We live in a culture where we're expected to stay in spring and summer, produce energy all the time, and it is making us sicker than ever. Join me this week as we take a look at how we can pace our lives in a different way in order to restore health and harmony in our bodies long term. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an Eastern medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering period solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. We are getting ready to enter the winter season, and I felt very strongly that this was the time to address one of the elephants in the room, which is that slowing down is a sin. If any of you follow me on Instagram, my handle is Moon Essence Me. So if you don't follow me, you should follow me because I put all kinds of little tidbits about stuff like this out in that space. But one thing that I posted about quite recently was this idea that slowing down doesn't mean that you need to have negative self-talk, that slowing down is a bad thing, it's a harmful thing, it's a negative thing. It's actually quite the opposite. So because we're coming into this winter season, and the winter season is all about stillness, I know that sounds counterintuitive simply because we're going into the holiday season, which is the busiest season in the entire year. But it's weird. Like, our culture puts all of this emphasis on the holidays, but it's occurring during a time where naturally our bodies are asking to pull inward. We want to slow down. We want to take a pause. All of those things are normal. So one of my favorite quotes in the entire world is this Lao Tzu quote that says, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." I told my husband jokingly I was going to get it tattooed on my forehead so that every time I looked in the mirror, I would see it. And even though I say that jokingly, I'm really quite serious because even though I'm immersed in this work, I still struggle with this. So you're not alone in that struggle of trying to figure out how much push is too much push and where should we be creating these spaces to slow down. And I think a lot of it has to do that most of us that are coming up through this system, or at least the Western side of things anyway, we are just raised in this, you have to go hard, go home all the time. You have to be productive in order to validate your worth. You have to put your pedal to the floor all the time in order to have value. And when we don't do that, we talk negatively to ourselves, or there's this little subcontext that floats underneath the conversation about you're stopping, you're not doing anything. What's the point? Right? So we're coming into a season where we do a lot of pushing. We are the magic makers. And when I say we, I'm saying the collective we, people who tend to be male, female, doesn't matter, the ones that create the magic behind the curtain. In general, women are the ones that are doing the planning for these kinds of things. They're doing the cooking for these high holidays. They are doing the shopping. They are wrapping the presents. I'm not saying that our counterparts don't participate. But if we were to sit back, cross our arms, and not do anything, none of these things would come to fruition. And we would have people in our sphere of reference around us that would be like, this isn't getting done. Is this going to get done? Are you going to get this done? Those are natural questions that follow. As we come into this super busy season, I want to highlight for you the importance of slowing down. I know I'm being totally contradictory right now, but hear me out. Yes, we're getting into a really busy season of the year. We're starting to push. We're starting to focus on all of the gifts that have to be purchased, the decorating, the family that's coming in and out, the travel that we're going to do to see family. We're starting to really shift gears and focus on all of these things. In amongst all of the chaos, what are you doing for yourself? Like really, truly sit with that for a second. What are you doing for yourself? Are you giving yourself time to meditate? Are you giving yourself time to slowly integrate into your day before the pedal hits the floor and you're going 90 miles an hour the rest of the day? Are you taking time to unplug from technology for a little bit before you go to bed? What does that look like for you? Slowing down can mean all kinds of things for a bunch of different people. And I was talking to a colleague of mine who is a holistic practitioner as well the other day, and we were talking about the fact that rest doesn't necessarily mean you have to completely stop moving. Rest can look like something that just fills your cup and that you're not going 9,000 miles an hour in the direction of all of your task list all of the time. So maybe for you, rest looks like going on a hike. Maybe rest for you looks like going on a walk. Your body is in motion, but your brain is not task to task to task, right? Checking boxes off a list. And for any of you who are Virgos that are listening to this, I know how intrinsically satisfying that checklist can be. Believe me, I get immense joy of checking things off of my list. But we get so focused on this checklist and checking things off on this list that we forget to really live. We forget to embrace all of the beautiful things that we are creating with our action. The whole reason that we are in action right now is because we want to bring the magic and the joy of the season to those that we love. But at what cost? Are we doing it at the sacrifice of ourselves? Are our efforts really being seen, appreciated, and understood by the people who are around us? As you start looking at the holiday season and the big long list of things that stand between you and the finish line, and there's a reason why January periods tend to be some of the worst of the whole year. Stay tuned for a future episode because that is coming up as a topic of conversation. But there is a reason why by the time we get to January, our body's uncle, I quit, and we end up having some of the most symptomatic periods of the entire year. It's because we push too much right now. So from a Chinese medicine standpoint, we are coming into winter, which is the season of the kidneys. Okay. So if you look outside the window, and I understand there's some of you that are listening in the Southern Hemisphere and you're like, nope, we're in summertime, folks. But for those of us that are in the Northern Hemisphere and we are going into winter, when you look outside the window, deciduous trees have lost their leaves. They look bare and they look like they are not doing anything. In fact, this resting period for them is absolutely essential in order to be able to bud, flower, and flourish in the other seasons of the year. You are a plant. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. You are the plant. In Chinese medicine, East Asian medicine practitioners see themselves as the gardeners that help supporting the plants to flourish. And we help to care for the root of the plant so that the rest of the plant doesn't have symptoms and it flourishes. That's the reason I absolutely love this Lao Tzu quote. Nature does not hurry, and yet everything is accomplished. If we can really start to embody this quote and really feel it and be like, you know what? The plants are not in spring and summer energy all year long. It is not sustainable. There are parts of the year where we start to shed and let go, just like the leaves. The trees go, okay, we've done what we need to do with these leaves and plants and flowers, and now it is time for the leaves to fall away and let go, and for the stillness and the recharge of winter to set in so that the plant can go through its life cycle starting in the spring. Our bodies are the plant. We need to have these seasons as well. And our Western culture has totally lost sight of that, And I had a client the other day who just totally made my little heart so happy because she had taken information that I had given her in an intake appointment months prior. And we had this beautiful intake appointment, totally loved the vibe of this woman, sent her all of the after action stuff that I usually do so that you've got tools to be able to get started with this work. I offer some of these tools in my classes too, but as a follow-up to my one-on-one appointments, I always include this kind of information because I want you to be able to start taking control of your health, right? That's what this program is for. That's everything that I do. I want to empower you with the information you need to thrive because you're the one that has to live in your body. This woman disappeared. I didn't hear from her for months. And then all of a sudden, she appeared on my schedule, and one of the most amazing things was said at the beginning of that call. I took everything that you gave me and I started putting it into practice. And just doing diet and lifestyle changes that you put in that email for me, I had a 60 to 70% reduction in my symptoms. 60 to 70% just by changing the way that we move through the world. No pill can do that. No product can do that. No shot can do that. Just changing your diet and lifestyle to be in alignment with where you are in the phases of your cycle and where you are in the seasons of the year changed this woman's experience 60 to 70%. And she had come back to me because she goes, and now I'm ready to integrate the tools that you wanted to give me, i.e., having some modality influence beyond just diet and lifestyle, because she wanted to finish taking care of the last few symptoms that remained. This woman is going to hit it out of the friggin' park because she's already started doing the work. This podcast is your invitation to really take a look at your life and go, where can I create space for myself? And as we're going into this season of stillness, there's a reason that the days get shorter light-wise. Because the days are longest when plants are supposed to flower and flourish. And the days are shorter when trees hibernate, plants hibernate. They are recharging themselves to be ready for that fruiting and flowering and bursting forth energy that begins in the spring. Most of us, if we're really in touch with our body, and I say that way because as a culture, we've really become very disconnected with nature. We are very sedentary. We are indoors all the time. We don't have a lot of out in nature time. And that disconnect is creating dis-ease, disharmony in our bodies and in our health collectively. But when we're really in touch with our bodies, we start to feel that natural slowing down and that want to go to bed earlier and that wanting to power down earlier in the day as the daylight gets shorter. It's supposed to happen that way. Bears hibernate in the winter. We want to hibernate in the winter. If you really truly think about it, we naturally try to have that same kind of slowing down happen. That is a natural, normal part of coming into the winter season. And yet our culture demands that we stay in spring and summer energy all the time. We have to produce, we have to keep going, we have to create, we have to do. Where if we sit down, that we are idle. There's that old-fashioned saying of idle hands are the devil's hands. No, it's all bullshit. I call bullshit. You have to stop sometimes. You have to slow down sometimes. There is nothing wrong or bad or evil about slowing down sometimes. Wintertime is a perfect opportunity for that. When our bodies are connected to nature as they should be, we feel in our body that natural wanting to go to bed earlier. We wake earlier in the morning with the light. We want to sleep with the lack of light. And then as the days get longer, we feel more productive. We have more energy to create things. By the time we get into the peak of yang in the summertime, light nights are later, social gatherings abound. We feel like traveling and going places and doing things and all of that. Great. But that's not sustainable forever because then people get burned out. You have to balance it out with slowing down. And the hard part is a lot of our holidays fall during a season where we want to slow down. And so we push. We push ourselves because this and this have to get done. We have so many things left to check off on our checklist. The to-do list is never, ever done. And that can feel very daunting and very disheartening. I actually, for a period of my life, remember I said something about being checklist driven and how satisfying it is to check things off on a checklist. I had a period of my life where I was so discouraged all the time because I never, ever completely accomplished my checklist for the day. And I had to really sit with that and realize that everything that I put on there was all stuff that had to get done, but it was absolutely unhealthy and unreasonable to expect that I could get all of those things done in one day. So I was consistently and constantly setting myself up for failure. No wonder I felt like a failure, right? So nature does not hurry, and yet everything is accomplished. So what did I start to do with that? I started taking my checklist and I started separating it out. I had things that I knew that I had to get done within a week. And within that week, I actually started setting realistic goals for my day. That realistic goal may look like something that's in alignment with my cycle, meaning that I know I have to record a podcast. Here I am. And I'm not doing it at a time when I'm not verbal. So I put it where it needs to go in my cycle so that I'm articulate and I'm giving you the best of me. Because when I am not feeling very articulate, I'm not gifting you with what it is that you're here for. There are times of the month that I'm really good at creating graphics because I feel very antisocial and I don't want to talk to anybody. And yet I still feel very creative. I just don't feel like talking to anybody. So I use that energy, right? So my checklists not only have gotten shorter on the day to day, But they've also gotten very mindful of where I am in my cycle and where we are in the year. This time of year, overall, what I expect of myself gets less. Now, Western culture tends to do the opposite. I saw this meme the other day that said something to the effect. Let me see if I can recall exactly what it said. Here we go. It says, "This is your reminder to stop stressing to finish the year off strong. You can finish it off grateful, relaxed, slowly, peacefully. The idea that we always need to be doing and achieving only creates cycles of anxiety. Rushing will not solve your problems. Rest will." So again, if you follow me, I drop gems like this all the time. But it's really true. It's really true. During this time of year, not only do we have this barrage of it's all the holidays and all the decorating and all of the this and the that and the logistics, in terms of work, for a lot of us, we're facing end of year stuff too. Or maybe we're starting to think about setting our goals for the next year. And then there's that whole kickoff in January of new year, new you, and everybody commits to gym memberships and all this stuff. And then by March, they're saying the hell with it, right? Maybe earlier than that. I don't know. So we have this like really unreasonable level of expectation for ourselves during a season where our body, if we really quiet our mind and check in with our body, maybe you put your hands over your heart and you really drop into your body and you go, what is it that you are asking of me? And the body goes, rest. And we go, but I have so much shit to do today. That I have so much shit to do today is your ego mind talking. That's not what your body's asking for. It is your ego mind telling you a story that is keeping you sick and keeping you unwell and keeping you pushing yourself beyond what your body is capable for. And that isn't okay. And the more we start to normalize mindful rest, intentional stillness, it starts to become less of a lazy conversation and more of a, oh, I'm listening to my body. I'm doing what I need to do today. Tomorrow is another day. I am famous in my household. My kids get so irritated. But I am famous for saying that's a tomorrow problem. Because I get to a point where I used to push myself through all of that stuff. I used to push myself so hard and I didn't want to show any weakness because again, I came through that culture. I had this conversation with a client the other day where there were signs put up in the hallway in high school of where you were going to college and what degree you were going to do. There was this level of prestige to push and charge ahead and go to college and be competitive. And you have to work like a man in order to be successful. And that just simply isn't sustainable. We have epidemic levels of fertility challenges in our culture. We have epidemic levels of health problems in our culture. We spend more of our gross domestic product in the United States on dealing with acute health issues after they occur than on prevention. This is where prevention starts, folks. Being able to say 2-word sentences, not now, or maybe it's a 1-word sentence. No. We don't do that enough. We say, yes, I'm going to take it on my plate. Yes, I'm going to take it on my plate. Yes, I can manage it. I got you. I got you. And then you get to the point where you're burnt out and all the shit's falling off your plate. And then you feel like a failure because you're dropping things. And you feel like a failure because your body's tired. And you feel like a failure because your body can't show up for you anymore. Because she's been screaming at you saying, please slow down. I need you to slow down. It's okay to slow down. If you need to use me as a scapegoat and say, I heard this person on a podcast that said, I need to slow down. Use me as a scapegoat. I have broad shoulders. I would rather you use me for that reason as your justification, if you're having a hard time making that justification to yourself, that's okay. Whatever it is that you need in order to be able to take that breath for yourself. Nature does not hurry, and yet everything is accomplished. You are nature. Your body is nature. Your menstrual cycle links up with nature. Our bodies respond to nature. The light gets darker. We want to rest more. All of that is normal. I know there are times in our lives that we have to sometimes put a little push behind things because we don't have a choice. There's a deadline. We have to meet it. Okay. But what are you doing to create counterbalance for that? Because you can't just keep push because eventually something's going to break. You have to be able to give yourself stillness or pause or something. Maybe you build a little bit of ritual into your day for yourself, where you take a few minutes first thing in the morning and you allow yourself to meditate when you wake up before your feet hit the floor. Maybe you allow yourself some stretching to just get the stiffness out of your body before you actually start engaging with your day. Maybe you're waking up a few minutes earlier to give yourself 20 minutes of actually being able to drink that hot cup of coffee or tea before the distractions start. And you have to reheat it 3 times, and it's not nearly as satisfying because then it becomes a job to consume it instead of an intentional act of self-care. Whatever it is that you choose to do for yourself, take those moments. 10 or 15 minutes here or there, they add up. They really do. And when you don't have to push, don't find reasons you need to. Make your to-do list accomplishable, if that's even a word. Make it manageable, make it achievable. Set yourself up for success. Because our inner critic is a harsh jerk and tells us all kinds of crazy things. Like we're not working hard enough, we're not doing enough, we're not successful enough, we're not pushing enough. There's, oh, get off this couch. You've got so many things that you've still got to do. I'm guilty of this. I'm 100% guilty of this. And that's the whole reason why I feel it is so darn important to emphasize this point and why I wanted to do an entire episode on it. Because we push ourselves beyond our capacity all the time. And then we get mad at our body when the symptoms that are showing up in our body are making it so that we can't keep pushing. There's a reason for that. Your body is saying, enough is enough. I can't go anymore. I can't do anymore. I am not a machine. I need to rest. And I'm not saying it's not going to feel weird at first. It's totally going to feel weird. Totally going to feel weird. And you're going to feel restless a little bit because you're going to be like, should I be doing something? I feel like I'm not being productive right now. But you need to tell the little inner critic, your ego, that is telling you things in your brain to sit down and have a breath. Because your body is brilliant. And your body tells you everything you need to know. Your period tells you what's going wrong in your cycle, your health and symptoms that are showing up in your life, the way your headaches present, all of that stuff is your body's way of lovingly trying to communicate with you. And it doesn't feel like it's loving most of the time. It feels, oh God, here we go. I've got a headache again. Instead of looking at it and going, okay, my body is telling me that I haven't supported them in the right way. What is it that I need? Everything that I do in my work is about teaching you how to read the symptoms that are showing up in your body as a message, rather than, oh crap, here we go again. Yes, here we go again, because you haven't broken the pattern yet. You haven't changed the way that you're moving through the world yet. Yes, it's going to show up again. But that's okay, because this time you're going to make it different. And you're going to put your hands over your heart and you're going to go, okay, what is it that I need? What do I feel like today? Do I need to slow down today? I had a day quite recently where I had a ton of things in it. And my body was screaming at me that I needed to stop. And I do this work and I still had to fight that little feeling that bubbles up in my brain going, but you have to get this stuff done. You have a deadline. And my body literally crying and going, but I need you to slow down right now. You're not going to do any of those things well if you don't listen to me. I am not immune to this. I do not have this all figured out. And that's exactly why I'm sharing it with you. It is a process. It is a journey. It is something you have to work at. But that's okay. You will get better at it. You will grow with it. I look at my life now. I am so much better at advocating for myself than I ever used to be. I used to stuff down how I felt about everything and just, I needed to be perfect and I needed to be the good girl and I needed to be this and I wanted people to see me a certain way and all of that. And I have totally said fuck it to all of that because I lost so much of my life to health problems trying to achieve a level of perfection that is simply not fucking humanly possible. And so many of us do it. So many of us do it. It breaks my heart that we have set the bar so unreasonably high. And social media doesn't help that because everybody who records TikTok videos and all of that stuff, they don't do it in a messy house. They push all that mess to the side. So the only part that you can see in the camera is something that looks like something out of Better Homes and Gardens magazine, but that's not how we live. That's not how we live. We don't live in houses that look like that. We try. We do the best we can. But in general, that is not what a lived-in house looks like. And if you have kids, forget it. You spend so much of your time stressed out running around after your kids going, pick this up, pick that up. Who created this mess? Whose sock is this that's stuffed in the corner of the couch? Can you tell that I have these conversations on a regular basis? My husband and I are pretty neat people. My children leave things everywhere. I'm not the ones that put the crumbs in the toaster, people, because I'm celiac. I don't eat the toast. Why are these here? Can you please take care of this? It's hard. This is hard. What I'm inviting you to step into is hard. But it is the best kind of hard thing that you're ever going to do for yourself. Because the more you can set these healthy boundaries for yourself and you can start to say, no, this doesn't feel good in my body. No, this is pushing me too hard. This is beyond my capacity right now. But I'll try again tomorrow. Then you're not being lazy. You're not shutting it down. You're not saying, no, I'm never going to do it. You're saying right now, my body is screaming at me for rest. And it needs to stop right now. And that's okay. Because if we learn to take care of ourselves in this kind of meaningful way, it means we're going to be less sick later. We're going to catch less of the bugs that our kids bring home. We're not going to get sick from being around people as much. We're going to feel more rested. Getting outside and walking in nature 10, 15 minutes really changes your perspective and the way that your brain shows up for you. We tend to think we have to sit at a desk and just drive. Again, it's all about staying in that spring and summer productive. I'm constantly producing energy, and nothing in nature does that without consequences. Our health is the consequence of that. Without your health, you have nothing. You can't keep pushing because your health will level you eventually. It might not happen right now. It might not happen 2 years from now, but at some point, if this pattern doesn't get broken, there's going to be a level of symptoms that is going to show up in your life that is going to make you sit down and stop moving because you won't have a choice. Do you really want to get to that point? women who show up in my practice who are bleeding every 2 weeks and are having flood bleeding, or maybe they're just bleeding consistently and they're only getting 2 or 3 days off. That kind of bleeding pattern can and will show up if you do not learn how to mindfully pace yourself. And it's not going to be perfect. There are going to be days where you're going to get to the end of the day and you're going to go, shit, I pushed myself too much today. I can feel it. Recognize that. Own that and honor that. And then tomorrow's a new day. How am I going to do this differently today? How am I going to do this differently tomorrow? How can I restructure my schedule so that I'm not constantly in this drive place? I have courses that are coming up next year. I'm so excited about them because it's going to teach you these little things about how to care for yourself in some of these seasons so that you can prevent. And this isn't just going to be a female body focused thing. This is going to be an antibody kind of thing because they're going to be very much centered around nature and how you show up and what nature calls for in each of its seasons and how you can bring that into your life in terms of diet and lifestyle. Little changes make huge impacts for your health right now and your health in the future. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist, Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.